Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. Why do you care?
One of the things we were starting to see was that some of the kids put on the puberty blockers, mental health was getting worse once they started the blocker. And that's against what the narrative tells us. The narrative says these interventions are supposed to make people better.
As someone who was born and raised in the Middle East, I grew up on the strong values of avoiding things that can harm both people and society, such as using drugs, consuming pornography, and alcohol, among many others. It has also taught me the importance of keeping intimate matters in the confinement of our homes, regardless of one's sexual or gender orientation. Society should be our top priority, with a focus on protecting our children as they represent our future. I recently saw a video of Neil deGrasse Tyson justifying and normalizing gender dysphoria in the most ridiculous way possible. Here's what he said.
Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care?
After constantly hearing from people who identify as progressive that advocate for separating concept of sex and gender by defining sex as a biological construct and gender as a social construct.
The difference between a sex difference and a gender difference. So people say, well, I had both genders in my study. Oh yeah, good. Both sexes, male and female. But use of that term, gender, implies a lot more than just a sex difference. The sex is more the biologic difference, and a gender has a lot to do with the acculturation of the individual and how they are experiencing what they have.
Biological sex, which determines if someone was born male, female, or intersex, is determined right at birth. Gender identity, however, is different. Gender is a social construct. That's right, a social construct.
And here we have a so-called scientist who suggests that one can identify as either sex, male or female, based on their feelings and a clothing choice. That claim is both foolish and contradictory at best.
Why do you care?
Why do we care? Here's a collection of videos that I compiled to shed a light on the repercussions of accepting such ideas while overlooking the consequences that they have on the real world.
A transgender female inmate has been moved to a men's prison after impregnating two other biological female inmates.
Biological male has just become the first transgender person to win a world title in cycling.
First transgender weightlifter winning her maiden international event as a woman.
A biological male winning a gold medal in a women's event now seems a matter of when, not if.
Been in there for like 5 minutes. Oh boy. Hey. I care.
I'm transgender. Okay?
You're a man, dude.
I'm a trans woman.
You're not a trans woman. You're born a man. I do. What if my daughter was in there and you walk in there?
It don't matter.
It matters to me.
I am a female.
You are a man.
I legally identify as female. Do something.
Act like a man.
Give me a reason.
You're a man. People act like one.
But I was 100% born. I defended my right to do whatever.
What happened? Why?
I defended my right to be whatever.
Why are you acting this way?
I've been doing this for years. You want to do something? Sit the fuck outside.
Yeah, I just did something. I told you the truth.
Sit the fuck outside, bitch. Do something.
You go outside. You're a pervert. Go away.
Yeah, like you're a bear?
Go away.
Where to place transgender offenders has become a political minefield. There was outrage when Tiffany Scott, a violent trans inmate, wanted to move to a female prison. And criticism too over the case of Isla Bryson, a transgender double rapist temporarily housed in an all-women jail. There's an urgent review and the movement of trans prisoners is paused in Scotland.
You come across a chant that claims that they're targeting your children. It's a matter that should concern everyone. Such statements should not be taken lightly. They actually reflect real-life concerns. Here's another compilation of videos featuring statements from Jamie Reed, caseworker from the Pediatric Transgender Center in Missouri, who recently appeared on the Trigonometry podcast.
Just to clarify, in this transgender clinic, you would never refer to people as boys or girls or men or women. You would say assigned female at birth.
That's transphobic to do so.
Wow. Okay.
And it said only in rare and, kind of urgent cases should you be under the age of 16. We were pretty much putting anybody on testosterone at 13 and a half if that's what they wanted, and they got to us in time. The minute you're talking to me on the phone, you have already started on a pathway, because the only therapists that I have to refer your kid to are therapists who are going to affirm their gender identity, not question it at all, and potentially, as soon as I say, take your kid to that therapist might see them for 1 or 2 visits and send them right back to the center to get started and seen by the people that prescribe hormones. Oftentimes, the parents who didn't want to give the drugs, all they were asking for was more time in therapy. And even they were losing. They're losing in court, and I think in part because doctors like the doctors that worked in my center would show up in court and testify on behalf of the parent who wanted to give the drugs right away. But one of the things we were starting to see was that some of the kids put on the puberty blockers, mental health was getting worse once they started the blocker. And that's against what the narrative tells us. The narrative says these interventions are supposed to make people better.
And what does that do to you if you are a young person who's been given testosterone?
If you were put on blockers first, it would render you potentially infertile for life. And now we also know for the kids, the boys, if we block you and put you on feminizing hormones, we also are potentially making you have sexual dysfunction for life. Blockers make it so that they never grow the penis or the testicles. If you never go through puberty and you never have those hormones affect that area, you are left with the same kind of penis size that you would have, that kids have when they're little before they go through puberty. And then also we knew that the feminizing hormones would make it so you had a lot of erectile dysfunction, the testicles would shrink and atrophy, and we would be causing changes to that part of the body that were irreversible. I definitely have come to believe that in the United States, there is an element of social contagion in play going on with young people who are seeking out care in gender centers. And I'm not the only one to believe that. I had lots of parents report very similar things. And there were even a number of patients in the center who would report and directly said, I only got this online. I was also struck at the very beginning because the administration of this hospital let this clinic open, and I was told that they originally thought that they were going to have about 50 patients total. And when I left, we were close to 2,000.
Wow.
And it got to the point in the center where there was an actual directive that we were no longer allowed to use the phrase, I have concerns about a patient. And in medicine, that should scare anyone.
There is this flawed mindset in the West, which often misconstrues the concept of freedom. Utmost freedom cannot coexist with utmost security. You have to find the right balance between both. For instance, consider the events of 9/11 as an example. Prior to those tragic events, it was much easier to board a plane with minimal security, which provided a sense of convenience, privacy, and freedom. However, the aftermath of that day necessitated that need for heightened security measures, and as a result, we had to make certain sacrifices in our personal freedoms to ensure our safety. During my college years in Canada, I lived with an elderly person who suffered from schizophrenia and other health issues. Despite my background in assisting my blind father for a significant part of my life, I find it very difficult to cope with the situation. Even though I was willingly helping him with many of his needs and routines, both mentally and physically, although we did share our good times and moments, he often accused me of theft and voiced paranoid thoughts about me. Despite my continuous efforts to prove him my innocence by finding him whatever he misplaced, he still struggled to trust me and kept blaming me repeatedly. It escalated to the point where it nearly involved the police, with the potential risk of false arrest. This whole period of living with him caused constant stress that pushed me to the brink, ultimately leading to move up. I had sincerely hoped that my kindness, my support and understanding would make a positive impact, but unfortunately, his mental illness remained unchanged, and my presence seems to exacerbate the situation. This experience shows the fact that tolerance alone may not be sufficient to address such complex issues, and introducing people with severe mental health problems into society could potentially do more harm than good.